The next individual I'm going to introduce you to is the keynote speaker, and I can do Ovid's resume and this next gentleman's resume very easy. But the thing is that a resume is one thing, but it doesn't speak to the person, does it? A resume is just facts about a person. It doesn't speak to the heart of a person. And when we look at a person's resume, there's a lot of things we should be saying. But one of those things we should always be saying is this a person I can trust? Is this a person I respect? Is this a person who puts themselves out like our founding fathers did, and sometimes lose their wealth, sometimes sacrifice their personal lives, and sometimes their reputations, unfortunately, are maligned and attacked. And I think all of us have been in that position at one time or another, but we still go out there and do it, don't we? Because that's who we are. And this next individual, I'm proud to say, somebody in their infinite wisdom at a radio station threw us together, having met each other very briefly, and put us on the radio together, and it was a great show. And sadly, I think that show convinced him to go off and run for other things. But what we don't tell you about this other individual is why he's a great New Hampshireite. You know, with no jobs prospect, he went out and created his own career with a mop, a car, and a bucket. And went out and created a business that right now employs 45 people. In between that, he was a single father going to college at the same time. Imagine that. Think about the pressures you have in your life right now. Starting a career, going to college, raising a daughter by yourself. All that comes after serving in the United States Navy during the Vietnam War, in the Vietnam War era. And this is the simple things that we do. And it makes us very humble, and it makes us great as we go forth in life, because what it teaches us, if we have to raise a child ourselves, if we have to sacrifice to go to college, if we have to sacrifice to defend our country, makes us very humble people, and that's very important. But far beyond that, he's one of the more caring people I've ever met in my life. He is truly someone I'm so proud to call my brother in many different ways. He's meant a lot to me in the brief 2 years we've known each other. I can honestly tell you that 2 years doesn't seem long enough for me to get to know a great man like this. And it's my proud privilege and heartfelt thanks. Thank you, Jack. To introduce you to Jack Kimball.
I gotta gather myself a little here. Jeff does this to me every single time. It shows you what $10 can buy. Well, it's been an interesting 2011, I can assure you. For me anyway, and for a lot of you as well. There are those that thought they got rid of me. Nope. Nope. Look, folks, we have some unfinished business in our state and in our country. Before I start talking to you about that, there's a couple of thank yous that I have to render myself. It was a trying time last fall, certainly for me, but not so much myself, my friends, a lot of people who are my supporters. But I'll tell you, it was an especially trying time for my wife. See, my wife has been beside me every inch of the way. Many of you have gotten to know her. You know Dawn Marie to be the wonderful, warm, loving woman that you've all come to meet. But she's also, in her heart of hearts, because she's been a cheerleader all her life, and she's still a cheerleader, she's my cheerleader. And when all this turmoil occurred, this woman who's been so tough, and she's a nurse, nurses are tough, they're also compassionate, aren't they? I have to tell you, my heart broke to see what was happening to her, just because it was happening to her husband. So tonight, I would like all of you to, with me, show the appreciation that I feel for this stalwart woman who is my wife. There will be hell to pay. You know, one of the things that my friend Jeff Chidester always does, and I know Ovide will agree with me, and many of you out there also will agree, he's one of the most unselfish human beings I have ever met. You can pick up the phone and call Jeff and say, hey Jeff, you know, we have an event coming up, could you MC, or could you... He drops everything. I've never, ever had the man say no for any reason. And he does it for absolutely nothing. He does it because he loves his country, he loves his state, and he's a patriot. So I would like to have a big round of applause for Jeff Chidester. You know, back when I ran for governor, I met a couple folks that have been with me ever since, and they have a heavy British accent. Mike and Marmar Rogers. Most of you are a phenomenal couple of people. They are the people who are hosting this, and Marmar's brother, Chris Hennigan. Where's Chris?
Right here.
Where is he? Oh, Chris, you're at my table. I didn't even see you. And Chris has been a wonderful supporter as well. But real quickly, you know, they come from England. They understand what's at stake. They left a socialist country to come to this great country called America. And they came here for everything that it has to offer. And Michael has done very well. He's a proud man. He's a great businessman. He's just a wonderful human being, very compassionate fellow. But part of the reason they're doing what they're doing to support good, strong conservative candidates like Ovide, myself, and others is because they do not want to see this country fall into the European socialist model that this current president is so anxious to have us become. They have lived it. They know. So that's part of the reason they're doing this. We've had a heck of a primary, haven't we? I'm exhausted. I've only got a couple days rest. But I do want to address a couple things. Please bear with me, because I think it's important since we've just gotten through the primary. I've gotten to know each and every one of the candidates. I had the honor and the privilege of being able to do so. And I think we have a great field. We do. The one thing that saddens me, and I don't know if you're with me on this, but we as a party have got to stop attacking each other. It has to end. It has to end now. It does no good for the party, and all it does is provide ammunition for the enemy. They will use these ads against us, you can rest assured. The other thing that's very confusing to me, and this also has to change, why do we let the mainstream media, liberal moderators, run our debates? Why? I'm deadly serious. Every one of these fellows has an agenda. All the gotcha questions that have been asked of our candidates. We don't need to do that. We don't. You get some Fox moderators, so for that matter, Fox put on one of the best forums I've seen. It was the best one. Let the candidates tell us what they're going to do. I don't care about contrast, that's fine, no problem at all. We ought to know about those things. But we have got to stop attacking each other, and we have got to stop allowing the liberal media to invite us into attacking each other. Now, We got a battle coming up in a few days in South Carolina. Nip and tuck right now, it seems, between Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich. It's going to be interesting. But I stand here before you as a Newt Gingrich supporter, and I will say to you that I will enthusiastically support whoever our nominee is, because the alternative is unacceptable. We have got to end the reign, which is Obama. He's a socialist ideologue. That's what he is. The recent budget cuts with the Pentagon, where we have already gone after that budget, will absolutely decimate our military. The argument is, well, we'll still be the #1 military in the world. We will never be able to project the strength and power that we need to if we decimate those great young men and women that is our military. $15 trillion deficit. Think about that. And now he wants to raise the debt ceiling another $1.2 trillion more. We just did that a few months ago. I say no. I say put an end to it. I say absolutely not another dime. This man, there's a lot of business people out here. I'm one of them, but there's a lot of others. I know a lot of you. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of risk to create a business. You risk everything, actually. You risk your home. Most of us put it up for collateral just to purchase products or goods, or a loan just to start a business. Risk everything. We're the people that hire the people. We are the employers. And quite frankly, I am tired of the attacks on business perpetrated by this president. We are the engine that drives the entire economy, thus the country. Occupy Wall Street. I have to tell you, this is planned. Barack Obama attacks success, rewards failure, shreds the Constitution, recent recess appointments, the czars, government outside our government. He has no foreign policy, absolutely none. And quite frankly, I have never seen a more divisive president in my lifetime. When you talk about OWS, you talk about people who are out on the street. Socialists combining with communists, combining with anarchists, combining with lemmings. Because most of them have no idea why they're there. But let's be honest, they're anti-capitalist. And they are about tearing down our republic. And the Tea Party folks are about rebuilding our republic. You see, the Tea Party, liberty-oriented movement in this country, we're immersed. We're either running for office or getting behind people that are running for office, and we're making sure that we take back our country. Occupy Wall Street. I sat down with my son-in-law and my daughter 3 days ago. I said, we got to come up with a better acronym. And my son-in-law, without any hesitancy, said, Occupy work, stupid. Perfect. The key thing here, folks, is we are all liberty-loving people. We all in this room believe in our Constitution. We all believe in small government, this small. We believe in tax cuts that benefit business and individuals. Why? Because it stimulates the economy, broadens the tax base, creates jobs. We believe in the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. Seems to be even more important now, wouldn't you think?
That's right.
We also believe in life and family values. It's the foundation of our country. These are the things that have made America great. And these are the things that are going to drive us to make sure America is great once again. The shining city on the hill is pretty dull right now. Pretty dull, but there's very good news. You know why? Because we own that city. We own the city on the hill, and we're upset with who's occupying that building, and we're going to have a major eviction in 2012. Absolutely. The 1% of the business folks out there that they so criticize pay 40% of the tax burden of this country. Top 10% pay 70+%. So I would recommend that the Occupy Wall Street folks write a letter of thank you to every businessman and the 1%ers in this country, thanking them for the tax burden that they have picked up on their behalf in most cases. I think that would be wonderful. I am an American before I'm anything else. Yes, I consider myself to be a patriot. I have proudly served my country. But I want to take a couple of minutes, because I think it's this important, to impress upon you the importance of Americans becoming Americans and acting like Americans once again. How many of you have heard about the 9/11 boat lift that occurred on September 11th, 2001? How many? Just a handful, right? Well, we were watching this horrific scene, all of us. People jumping out of buildings. Over 3,000 people died, mostly innocent people that day, just going to work. While that was going on, hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers were running out of the buildings and running to the harbor area, where they quickly realized Manhattan's an island. They couldn't get off. The ferry boats, there's only a few that run, couldn't handle all of that load. There wasn't much panic at first, but then the first tower came down, and then panic broke out. People started jumping in the harbor. They were all jammed along the wall. Hundreds of thousands of Americans, and all these people started coming out with all the debris on them and all the smoke and the dust that you saw, that big cloud. They were choking, they were all hurt. And what happened next was absolutely astounding. Coast Guard pilot boat was in the harbor. They knew this was going to turn into a major crisis. They could see it. They saw people panicking, getting on smaller boats. One of the boats was starting to capsize. They knew they had to do something. So the decision was made by the captain of that small pilot boat to get on the microphone and put out a broadcast. And that broadcast went something like this: calling all available boats, calling all available boats, please come to Governor's Island to help evacuate Manhattan. Now, they had no idea whether that single soul was going to hear that broadcast. It was on VHF radio. They didn't have any idea whether a single boat would arrive. Ladies and gentlemen, within 15 minutes, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of boats showed up. Tugboats, fishing boats, charter boats, personal pleasure craft showed up. I can tell you, that day, no one cared when they were getting on those boats that were rescuing them, whether they were 1% or 99. And the people that were picking them up in those boats, they didn't care if they were a Wall Street executive or somebody flipping burgers at Burger King. They were Americans, every one of them. And they were going to make sure that they survived. At the end of an 8.5-hour period, 500,000 New Yorkers were lifted off of that island. 500,000. It's the biggest boat lift in history. Second only to, not second, first, it even surpassed the Dunkirk rescue, if you remember, World War II, where British and French troops were rescued from the beaches of Dunkirk. Some 360 or 370,000 of them. It took about 9 days, and certainly the conditions were different. That's what America needs to be about again. That is the America that I want to see. How do we get there? This is how we get there. You see, even if we're fortunate enough to elect a Republican president and grow the size of our House of Representatives and take control of the Senate, that'd be a great thing. It's a good start. But there'd be a lot of work to do, and it's going to take time. See, that which is Washington, D.C., that's a mess.
No kidding.
A real mess. It's a cesspool, and it's got to get cleaned up. However, and this points us right to the live free or die state. We are going to take this country back. I believe it. I believe it in my heart. Through the states.
Yeah.
The states. We can get our arms around the states. We need good, strong, conservative governors to run all of our states. We need governors that will protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America as well as the Constitution of our state. We need a governor who believes in states' rights, in state sovereignty, and who is unafraid to push back against an ever-encroaching federal government. We need a governor who believes firmly in small government, and that the government that governs best is the government that governs least. We need a governor that understands that it is not the government's job to create jobs. They can't. It is the government's job to get out of the way. It is the government's job to create an environment in which small businesses can flourish. This man understands that. Another thing is tax relief. Major tax relief for small businesses. Very, very important to kick off the economy and bring businesses in. Right to work. That is so critical. The state of New Hampshire needs to pass right to work legislation to make sure that we are the premier state in the entire Northeast for business. Upholding our right to keep and bear arms. That is critical, especially in the live free or die state. It's time to elect a governor that shares all of our beliefs, that will sign good legislation like parental notification first time around. Don't have to worry about having to override a veto. The man that I believe needs to be, should be, our next governor is Ovide Lamontagne. Already wholeheartedly endorsed Ovide. I'm asking you all of you, to get on board today and push this man over the finish line. Ladies and gentlemen, our next governor, Ovide Lamontagne.
GrokTV.